Hi, everybody. Let me take my mask off here. I'm in the library at the end of the day on Friday, and well, you can see my hair is getting really long. I haven't gotten it cut since the pandemic, but it is February, which is Black History Month. And I was kind of thinking, oh, what am I going to pull off the shelves? And then I thought, well, shoot, since people aren't in the building and I've got all these new books, I thought I just would sort of catch you up on some of the books that I've added. I probably got too many of them. I'm just going to actually show you real quick. I have the nonfiction books here on the table, and you can see there's a number of them. And I'm just going to do a sort of quick introduction to some of those. I also want you to just see some of the African-American authors that we have in fiction. I just want people to know that even though February is Black History Month, I sort of feel like the whole year is Black History Month, is American History Month, is trying to get a very diverse representation of our country's rich cultural heritage, our history. But this is February, so I just want you to get a sense of some of the books that we've added this year. Stamped from the Beginning came out before, and it's a really long book, and maybe even longer than a lot of people would want to spend the time with. It's about, I think, 600 pages. This one is an adaptation that Ibram Kendi, the author of Stamped from the Beginning, did with Jason Reynolds. And Jason Reynolds, as you might recall, is the author of A Long Way Down. And I mentioned before in one of my book talks, he wrote the novel A Long Way Down, and then also this graphic novel, which I think people would really enjoy. Other things that we've picked up on, as you might know, I'm a former English major. I'm also a poet, so I love when I can pick up literature by diverse authors, and there's so much of it coming out, and there's so much attention being given to authors of color also who've made our literary tradition so rich. So I wanted to just give you a sense. This person, Kevin Young, is the editor of this African-American poetry, 250 years. He is one of those people that just drives me crazy because he's so smart. He's written books about scams and bunk in US history. He's a poet. He works at the Schomburgs. He runs the Schomburg Center. He's the poetry editor of the New Yorker. And he's just, he's just a font of energy and enthusiasm. But this is a brand new anthology of African-American poetry that I think people might really love. Starting with Phyllis Wheatley and going right up to the present. People like Donna S. Smith, Jericho Brown, authors that I think a lot of people would be like, oh, I didn't know you could write that nowadays. So poetry, of course, authors that people know about, like Langston Hughes and James Baldwin. These are critical books having essays about those authors. And the thing I love about these is they are also available online. If you just go to the library webpage and look for Salem Press, and you have a number of authors, all the essays in there are available online. So that's really super. Of course, one of the great things is to update biographies that we have, and things like Ida Wells Burnett, who's getting more attention now. I think is just a fantastic activist. She was an anti-lynching advocate, an advocate for civil rights, and was tireless. And then I'll throw some more of these out here real quick. Of course, Vice President Kamala Harris, W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the great intellects of African-American thinking in the United States. Miles Davis, a jazz, plays the trumpet? I'm not a big musician, but I love his music is phenomenal. George Washington Carver, who's just a phenomenal, I guess probably plant botanist is one of his most famous accomplishments, but scientist, artist, creative thinker, just a wonderful person. A biography of James Baldwin and one of Louis Armstrong. And that's not all. There's more over in the biography section. I just wanted to give you a little sample. And it seems like I'm talking too much, so I'm going to kind of speed it along here. Of course, books about just things about Black history, the Black arts movement, which is unlike, say, the Harlem Renaissance, which picks up in the 1920s, the Black arts movement is like 1965. Authors you might have heard of would be like Gwendolyn Brooks, Leroy Jones, or also Amiri Baraka, Lorraine Hansberry, comes into the Black arts movement. So really just a phenomenal flowering of, oh, Nikki Giovanni, who's a poet that we have some of her work here too. And of course the Harlem Renaissance, which predates that. A lot of people think of that like in the Roaring 20s, the Jazz Age, New York, just all these writers, painters, thinkers, philosophers, musicians who converge on Harlem and just turn it into this cultural mecca that still gives us gifts today that you can enjoy. And then Jim Crow laws. So this is a Black History series in the United States. This is Lucent Library of Black History, History of Slave Rebellions, something that sometimes doesn't get enough attention, the resistance to slavery. And then also this one, on a book on reparations, the idea that the country still has to come to terms with how to pay back all that wealth of labor that was stolen from African Americans when they were enslaved for so many years in our history. So that just kind of gives you a little sense. I've also picked up a few, let's see, these, I'm really excited about selected works of Audre Lorde. Some people would probably put her into like that second wave feminism. And then right after that, you get a lot of women of color speaking out. So civil rights, feminism. She was just a tireless writer and activist, but mainly known as a poet, but also an essayist. I would say similar to like Adrienne Rich. Who's another white poet, white Jewish poet, but who's very, very influential. And James Weldon Johnson, who is kind of a favorite of mine. He is from the town that I grew up in Florida, Jacksonville. And in fact, they just renamed the downtown Central Park in Jacksonville after him, which I'm really happy they've done that finally. And then, like I mentioned, this is just a super time for authors of color and young adult literature novels. And I'm just gonna, this one I read recently, which I really liked. A young woman come to terms. I think she's Nigerian American, and she goes off to college, and she has to sort of deal with the expectations of family and what's in her heart, what she really wants, which is to be a dancer. So it's really cool. This one, I read his book just recently, Field Guide to the North American Teenager. And so this is a brand new one by Ben Philippe, Canadian African-American, super. And I'll just show you some more of these I haven't read, but the reviews came up with them. And obviously I can't read everything I get, but they look really exciting. And they all came highly recommended. Tiffany Jackson's book, Leah Johnson. I'll just show you a few more. And if you want to search these, you can just go on the library catalog, click under categories, look for new fiction, and just click on one of the ones, and then it should be African American fiction. You could click on that subject heading. And if you see a book you really are like, oh, I've got to have that, email me, mmurray@usd116.org. And I hope everyone's doing well, staying healthy, keep your masks on when you're in public. And take care of yourselves. Try to find some good things every day. And I hope that we're back in school as soon as possible, and that this pandemic, we get it whipped. And take good care. And thanks for tuning in. And have a great Black History Month and a great rest of the year. Bye now.